Fight over it.
I do sometimes. All right.
You got a substantial fee at 12 o'clock already.
So we're back in open session. So Dr. Arbogast, I guess we'll just go ahead and start with item 3, construction update.
Thanks, sir. I don't know how much information you want. I can go bullet by bullet, project by project. I'll kind of lump them. Macy, I'll do together. We shared with you, you approved RL Price at the last board meeting for the contract. We have received the draft bid document. We received that Tuesday, I think it was. So we need to review it. We'll get council to review it, make sure there's nothing there that we have any concerns about, and then we'll try to get that executed. We need to work on with ZMM to get a meeting with RL Price, ourselves and them, to kind of try to start getting an idea of what the time's going to look like, what the time frame's going to look like, and then timeline, that sort of thing for the project. Once we do that, we'll give that update to you as well. We also are working on scheduling a trip to Dickinson County because ZMM did some work there and put in what they call the gray light windows. We want to go see what that looks like. We want to go see what that looks like, whether the glare on the smart boards, view boards, etc. Classroom, that's the atmosphere, environment, that sort of thing. So we're working on trying to figure it. Sunny day. We haven't had many of those in the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks. So as soon as we get one of those, we'll try to schedule that well enough in advance to go down there and see that, and take a couple of the administrators, because that's what's being talked about being installed in the safe school entrances and in the windows on the buildings.
And those would have the safety features that we would expect that we've retrofitted some of our schools with already, without saying too much.
We mentioned to them the bottom floor would.
Okay.
Have to have ballistic film installed.
Yeah, we talked about that. Eastern, I'm just going to kind of lump a couple of them here together. Eastern, Nares Elementary, Nares High, and Giles High School safe school entrances. We met with all the principals and Macy as well. All the principals with ZMM a couple Fridays ago, and sat down and talked about the safe school entrances, what they would look like, how they would function, etc. Got feedback from the principals so they could share it with ZMM to kind of see maybe this needs to be tweaked, maybe that needs to be tweaked, and had a good conversation. So ZMM is working now on those safe school entrances to kind of give us a second review on them, what they may look like. Giles and Nares High School would be a small addition on the front to be able to redirect into the office. Eastern will be some sort of reconfiguration there as well. Macy is really pretty much has it. Door is already locked. It's just kind of reconfiguring that front. And Nares Elementary is a little bit probably going to talk about a little addition on the front as well. So that they're working through that process now to make sure they kind of redesign, use the comments that they received. And the safe school entrances at Giles and Nares High School, that will be rolled into the project when we put that out for the HVAC, the roof, and the windows. That'll be part of that package as well. Easterns will be as well. That'll be part of the HVAC and roof replacement. That'll be part of that package also. Macy's safe school entrance would be part of the second phase 2. Stadium lighting at Giles, we've signed a contract with them. They're waiting on the contract to begin work. They've got the lights, they're being stored. They're waiting on some electrical panels and components. Unfortunately, that work, estimated time frame, that won't get finished until June. It's just the timing of getting electrical stuff in. And that's why I shared with you at the board meeting the number of days. The electrical stuff is what's holding a lot.
So when's it going to start and when's it going?
We don't know exactly when it's going to start. It's going to start in spring sometime. I'm anticipating around the end of May, beginning of June being finished. They're waiting for things to ship, and a lot of times you can get a ship date, they'll change it, they'll push it on down the road, so they can't give us a concrete time of when they can start until they get a better idea of when their components are coming.
I was just worried. Soccer season. They probably go pretty deep this year, I'd say, so.
I don't know that I would love to have it installed by then, but I don't know.
I don't want a situation personally, and one board member, where we start that. It needs to be done by next football season for sure, because again, the financial impact of that on the Giles athletic programs, if we had to move games, would be disastrous. But if it looks like you're going to be hosting some playoff, that's going to be late in the year towards playoff season. To the extent they can hold off a week, I don't want them not to be able to host a home game or have to move it somewhere because they don't have lights.
We need to coordinate with, if we get into the fall, we need to coordinate with their schedules. I am hoping we have this worst case in June, beginning of June.
I hope so.
I hope so. I mean, it's the Wild West as far as construction.
Once they get all the stuff and get started,
It'll
it's
take
how long
them
it take to put them up.
2 weeks, maybe 2 weeks.
Yeah, we done I'm like Jason, I'd love to have it for soccer, but we definitely gotta have it for football.
Yeah.
And I really don't want these kids to have a good team have to be forced to go to Ragsdale Field in Nares or up to Blacksburg to play a soccer game on their home field because they're saying, hey, this is the only time we can do it.
I'm almost of the opinion if they propose to start putting them in during soccer season is to kind of put them off toward the end, maybe not in the middle and risk having to move a game, or, of course, we can discuss that.
We don't want to displace anybody.
We don't want to displace anybody.
We don't want to displace a team that they need to have the ability to play at home. If they're playing at home, they need to have that ability.
Yeah.
I know that. I just wanted to.
Softball field, still working on the softball backstop there at Giles. Been working with maintenance. Maintenance been working with us to work on, get that taken care of. However, I know that they're running into some issues now, being able to put the masonry in. So we're going to have to try to find somebody that can do that. And we're waiting on that price to get a mason in for the wall, a couple courses of block.
Is that not what the vocational building trades class was working on?
They don't have
They did work on some of that, but they don't do.
They can't do this.
It
next
became
section.
a little bit more involved than originally believed.
Yeah, I heard about the plans.
So you're aware, and I don't know how much you've heard, and as I mentioned, HVAC, we're still working through some issues on those 5 new units that we put in on that heat pumps in that at the end of the project there. I think it's 2nd and 3rd grade, I believe is the area. Temperature swings in some of the classrooms. One room will be 90-degree air coming in. One room will be 40-degree air coming in. That's probably for season. It's just a fluctuation in the air coming in and not sure why. So we've tried to work with the control. So we're looking at probably doing something with replacing either replacing the thermostats or just opening it up to give them full control. And if they give them full control, then there's going to be some other things you're going to need to make sure they do. Which they think giving full control is going to be is what's going to solve it.
It seems like air conditioning is on in the gym when that stuff gets on. I said on those vents the other night about froze. Chris had said something about they had some issues in basketball season with the gym feeling cold. May just be spoiled by the fact that old electric heater burned out, but when they went out the gym, they had to put that electric heater up.
Still waiting to hear on the SCAP and lit loan for the projects. The application we submitted in November. Sent an email to see if I can get an idea of what the timeline's going to be. I've not heard back yet. As soon as I do, I'll let you know. So that's Giles, Nares, Eastern, Macy Phase 2. So
All those out.
Center, all this stuff. So that's what we're waiting on. We want to try to get at least Giles. We want to get Giles and Nares out on the street, get that out to bids. So we can hopefully get couldn't close back like we did for the last one. Same thing with Eastern did. ZMM's finalizing that. And, Tech Center, they're ready to go. Roof's ready to go, design's ready to go, so it's just a matter of getting that out there on the street as well. Auditorium sound at Giles, we've already signed a contract. What they shared with us, estimate to start the work at the end of, towards the end of March. And they said, once they get here, it's 1 to 1.5 weeks, 2 weeks. So. Those are the projects we have going on. We did check on the baseball field at Nares High School. And we're told that, at this time, we're not going to proceed into doing anything else with the baseball field. I think that's everything.
All right.
This project.
I guess in cafeteria, and that was, I guess, is the next thing, and I don't need a full report right now, just wonder where we are tracking.
Currently, we're tracking toward breaking even for the end of the year. The good news is we did turn a slight profit in December, and that's as far back information as I don't have January's yet, so I don't have anything to compare it to.
Just finishing up January.
We're finishing up January now. We, as I said, a slight profit of $2,000. So we appear to be trending up. But I will caution that there are many factors that are in play that are impeding us from making progress like we have in the past years. And I think we've talked about that in terms of, I called our supplier PFG Reinhardt the other day just to get a more concrete idea on how much food has gone up. And it is, in the past 2 years, it has increased, I think it's 12%. It's increased 12%. Of course, our salaries have gone up 12%. Insurance, things like that. So there's a lot of factors that have increased. I even got the food cost. With PFG is our largest food supplier, not our only one, but our largest one. 2021, we spent $656,143 with them. 21-22, 631,803. Last year, 746, 629. So there's some things that we can look at to try to control that as far as inventory. Need to start meeting with our managers to maybe start looking at that. Try to get you a more concrete answer on CEP. I have talked to everybody I can talk to, and I don't know that I still can get a straight answer on how that operates. And I mean, I have talked to the state. I talked to a couple of fellow managers in other districts, and unfortunately, they're in the same situation as we are. They are losing money, and they're losing a lot of money. I specifically talked to Radford, and they are in the same, little bit of the same situation as we were. 4 of our schools, 4 of their schools, well, actually, they do. 3 of their schools met CEP, their largest one did not. They chose to roll it in, and now they're starting to see their losses. And we had a good conversation. It's not because of mismanagement of funds or anything like that. It's because of the federal reimbursable rate. The federal reimbursable rate has not kept up with the cost of the food, the cost of the raises, things like that. And that's more of a legislative problem in Richmond that we locally can't solve right now. I don't know that it'll ever be solved.
Is it a Richmond problem or a DC problem?
It's a Richmond problem to take to the DC. It's a state to notify, in my opinion, to advocate federally, because it ain't just a Virginia problem. It's across the country. But I talked to my state representative, and he gave me some good ideas on how to increase meal participation. That are quite simple. Serve a potato with every meal, and that becomes a reimbursable meal, which you get a lot more money from just an a la carte sale. Like a French fries, tater tots, or mashed potatoes, you do that, you pair it with a hamburger, you pair a piece of pizza, kids love mashed potatoes and potatoes in general.
You're taking your potato whether you like it or not, kid.
Well, no, it actually as he said, he was in Fluvanna for a long time, and he said, what I found was it worked. So I'm willing to try anything. I need to meet with my managers, and we need to dial down and see what our best menu options are for our kids and just start serving the heck out of it, just start really hitting nachos and hamburgers and this, that, and the other. I will tell you, our lowest participations are at the high schools. And that's not uncommon. I know when I was in Radford, and even back in early or 2008 to 2015, it's never really had good participation out of high schools. Neither one of our high schools, they're hovering around 39%.
I know, that's crazy, especially when they're playing sports. You'd think that.
Well, I know these kids go. I mean, there's kids that would eat 2 meals if people will get them.
Right.
Right. I mean, do we gather like student feedback on I have 2 questions about this, if that's all right.
Yeah, go ahead.
What is our goal, right? So I hear us talking about like we're at $2,000 profit and some aren't making it. So what are we working towards? Like what is just break even?
Yeah.
Well,
We're not having to pay.
So historically, we've made a decent profit in cafeteria, which allows us to fund
Something
cafeteria.
Sure.
Well, it's got to be spent in cafeteria. So the dishwashers that are and all that stuff.
Right.
And then this year, what we decided to do before it was a school by school choice qualification.
Right.
For free lunch.
Mm-hmm.
So this year we decided to make everybody, but the problem is there was a risk that we would run a deficit, which it poses 2 problems for us. One, Mr. Brown's going to need money to buy cafeteria purchases is regularly part of it because our hard water tears everything up. And then number 2, if we have a budget deficit right now, this year we are working on we're spending $150,000 that we don't have funds for. We're using carryover to cover some raises the county asked us to do that. So we need to keep track of that. This is the time of year that I start getting nervous, David, to make sure that where we are expenditure revenue rise to see if we're going to have carryover, if we're going to have, God forbid, have a deficit. But this is the one area I think we all identified that it could be a possible deficit because of we've never done it. And so we want to make sure that if we have to ask for money from the county because we're identifying that we're doing it as quickly as possible rather than going in June and saying, hey, help us cover our budget deficit.
well, here's, again, I've talked to multiple people about the CEP and, that's one of the things, you may have to, that's what we heard when we went that direction. You may have to cover the differences. I have yet to get a concrete answer on what triggers that, what's the metric, is it, because we right now have a surplus in our budget, right? We're not running a deficit, nor will we this year. But since we're CEP, is there another trigger point? Is there another metric where the state can come back in and say, okay, Giles County Schools, you need to write a check to Giles County School Nutrition. So I have not figured that out, and that was a conversation I had with my counterpart in Radford and the former counterpart in Pulaski County. Both of them goes, Mike, we've never heard anything about that. But we did when we went down this road. And it was from, I do believe it was from our state representative who is no longer there at the BDOE. But I talked to Tom Patrick. He's our new interim specialist, and he kind of said, he goes, well, usually this comes about when you do what's called an FBAR, your federal review, which we just went through this past fall. He said, if they do your FBAR and then they do the audit part on it and it looks like you were in a deficit, then you would have to reimburse, which makes no sense because it's 5 years between federal reviews. So I can't wrap my mind around, you're going to wait 5 years. At the end of that 5 years, you're going to come back and say, okay, you owe, X owes X money. So
That's absolutely terrifying. We've got to understand what that is because I don't want to be here
So
Hopefully if
my
that
next
happens, I'll be
step,
here 5 years from now.
my next step is that we'll call Sandy Kerwood, who's the Terry Argast of the VDOE school district. She's the superintendent of or director or whatever it is.
We just, if that's the case, and it's something that can be a time bomb in 5 years, then we definitely we gotta get a handle on it now so that we can
Our goal,
plan for it.
Mrs. Price, our goal is to break even or make a profit in every school.
Okay.
So every school is identified as its own entity. It has its own, so there's not 5 schools rolled into one. Macy is responsible for Macy, Giles is, so forth. So their profit and loss shows across the line for Macy.
Okay.
For Giles High School, for Eastern Nares, so forth and so on. So our goal, my goal is to, as it was back in the 40s, to have as many kids eat as possible.
Okay. That's helpful. Thank you.
And so we had all
David,
our
do you
schools.
have anything to add to that as far as trends?
Give free
Because
lunches
I
to
think you and I talked about a trend.
So we, that's what we done.
Thank you.
Y'all want me to order lunch or?
No, we won't be here that long, I hope. Encourages people to shut up.
You know,
I'll quit talking.
I'll stop asking questions.
No,
Yeah, that's a lie. I won't.
no, that's how you learn.
Other questions? Next couple items were items that Mr. Williams asked at the board meeting, so we put them on there just to, again, have a conversation. Health insurance, I think right now we've not heard anything about what the health insurance is going to do, whether we're going to anticipate increase or anything like that. I do know the last 4 years, at least, we've not had an increase, not increased the what we're paying individually for employees, so that's been positive. We're self-insured, as everybody knows, so a conversation we can just bring up next Wednesday with when we have our 2 board supervisors, 2 school board members to kind of get it out there to see if there's anything that they're thinking about or if they have any concerns with it as well. Any questions you all have? Public track access at Giles High School. I know the conversation when we had the new track installed. That was a $200,000 investment, and in order to take care of that investment, because it would be challenging to monitor, instead of leaving it wide open and allowing everybody to go up there, it was decided that we would have that closed so that the integrity of the track would be maintained and not have bicycles and rollerblades and skateboards and whatever else might be up on it. So, and gum and whatever, yeah.
Chewing gum is.
So that, I mean, I know that's why we did what we did. So I don't know if there's a conversation you want to have about that or need to have about it or not.
No, Mr. Williams, I think we can talk about it then, and if I think from what I gathered from what his comments were on that if there's a feasible way to do it, because I think it sounded like he was told that it could be opened if we just said to do it, but I think there's got to be some understanding. And maybe it's just you talking to him about it.
Yeah, I mean, we can open it up, but if we open it up, it's going to be hard to monitor.
Well, that's what
Monitor who's up there and who's walking on it, and I mean, what apparatus is on the track. We can put signs up all day long.
Yeah.
Who's going to monitor is the question.
It's just like that sign at Naris High School with the bike, no bikes, no dogs, and there's a guy who rides his bike with the dog.
He covers it all at one time.
He said, watch me be a rebel.
It's a tough thing, because I know a lot of our elderly people like to go during the day, and walk on it, but I mean, it's tough. I mean, I wish there was a time that somebody could, monitor it and do, and, I think I hear more about our elderly people who used to go during school hours, and probably most of them didn't see anybody, you wasn't worrying about people on bikes and, rollerblades and stuff like that.
Unfortunately,
our time and the way society is now, that is a thing of the past of going during school hours.
I know.
It's okay, we can't do
I
that.
know, it's just, because it's, most of them who reach out to you are those people who, it's like safety for them because, they're not out on the sidewalk, I mean.
Not
it's
circling KJ.
Yeah, I mean, it's just it's a terrible thing, but then when you worked for a track, I mean, it's really just not a good answer for it. I mean, it's just,
Yep.
those things you just can't figure it out.
I guess the next thing is that transportation on NRCC.
You also mentioned transportation for ACE students to Newark Community College on a daily basis.
Can I get, Mr. Williams isn't here, so maybe we need to table that, because what I'm unclear of is if he is saying that we should offer that as a service to graduated students who are no longer in our school system.
That's what it is.
The ACE
My
kids.
assumption is that's what it is. It's for those individuals, students that have graduated, are in the ACE program, going to New River Community College, taking college courses.
I think he's going to need to know, I think we as a board, before we could decide that, is liability issues with that. That's assuming the county would fund it, because I think what he's saying is the county would fund it. There's liability issues with that, the number you're talking about and all that, so.
Well, and I think a valid question would be, what is the true need? Have we identified that we have students who qualified for the ACE program who are not going to school because of transportation? And should we fill that gap, or is that burden on someone else?
Yeah, I think
it's good intention.
Right.
I think we put that to, I think you find that need, that's kind of what I'm saying there with the number that we'd be looking at. And then, like I said, there's a liability issue there. And then there's, again, the funding, I think from what I understood was if we'd ask for it, we'd get it. But again, that's two questions, whether it's worth it and whether it's liability wise. I think the handicap bathroom access, I think that's more Mr. Williams' question, so.
Okay, moving along.
Sick days of retirement, Mr. Pennington?
I just know when we met back in the fall, we met now at the vocational school, Mr. Stump said something about would like to up the amount they get for their sick days. I told him we'd bring it up and talk about it. But I think you said Dr. Arbogast needs to get some numbers together to see.
And I think it may be something with our budget, what we're going through in the next retreat things. What I think we need to get, and anyone else please chime in about what the numbers we need to get. But I think to make a decision on that, we need to know what we're expecting, at least in the next 5 years, maybe a little bit longer than that, as far as people that are close to retirement, what their balances of sick time are, and what we would what a baseline will be, what we expect. Again, this is going to be a projection at $20 right now, and the current limitation on the number of days. And then I think Mr. Stump said $50, so we would put various increments of what we'd expect if you raised it, and then same thing with if you increase the cap on what they could get compensated for.
Currently, I don't know if everybody knows, it's $20 per day up to a maximum of 200 days.
That we will pay them out at the point of retirement for unused PTO.
If somebody retires and they have accumulated sick leave, they'll get paid $20 a day for up to $200, so they're gonna get a $4,000 check.
And his point was that the people that like him that has a bunch built up,
Sure.
or Arbogast or whoever, that they come to work every day.
Yes.
And we're not having to pay us, 80?
105 or 85.
We're not having to pay a sub.
Sure.
To cover them, so they ought to be, when they retire, they need to.
Compensated equally. Mm-hmm. That's logical.
So I'll gather, I'll talk to Barbara Monday, get employees over the next 5 to 10 years, that have the eligibility to retire, could retire, number of sick leave days, and kind of get a cost for both $20 or $200, and then if we could take it up to, if we take it up incrementally, kind of get an idea.
I guess probably the other question be answered basically kind of what, if we got anybody that's over 200 days accumulated, because I think there's the other thing, you could change the cap to somebody.
Right.
Because I know there's employees in the past that have taken every week, at least a day a week off to get under, yeah.
Wow.
Probably all I can, maybe, because they're gonna ask, what are other school systems getting?
Yeah.
Right.
So,
How long has that number, and also if we could, how long have we been compensating at that amount?
$20 to $200, I'd have to look and see exactly.
Okay.
It doesn't show me on the policy when that was updated. I'd have to look at the last page. It was updated probably.
Well, that's probably been in the 90s, wasn't it?
Oh, my.
But I think we upped it to 200 days, upped it to 200 days probably 7-8 years ago. But I think
Okay.
the dollar amount probably has been the same for
Been the same since
some time.
Okay.
There was
Because
a,
it used to, because of the other piece of this, and I don't know that we have anybody that would fall on it, is that what we just said, 200 days, that's earned after 1988. So there's another bullet in there.
Sure.
Any days earned prior to 1988 was paid at a quarter of per diem. So that, I don't know that we have.
well, but I mean, they used to get, in the late 80s, they had a bunch of early retirements and they got hammered.
Yes.
There wasn't a limit on it.
Right.
Yeah, so we'll get the information, gather that, we'll have it for the, so hopefully I'll have it definite for the second day of the retreat. But I'll try to get it to you so you can at least look through it and kind of review and see if there's any questions you have. Just to provide you a couple other updates, unless there's other questions on sick days. Hunter safety, I know we've talked about. We have been, Rusty Castillo has been working on getting in contact with somebody. They've gotten the books and the information taken care of. They've got those. Now we're just trying to find somebody to do it.
Can you clarify what we're
Safety for.
hosting, hunter safety? Okay.
It's for-
Mr. Vincent, the retired game warden.
Yes.
He had, last year he did the class.
Okay.
He was going to do it this year and he was having trouble getting the booklets.
Gotcha.
And now that,
He's
since,
got the booklets, but he's.
yeah, but now he can't
Sure.
because his daughter is having health problems, so he's, don't know when he has to
Yes.
take care of her, so he can't do it. But Rusty that works at Macy is a qualified instructor, and McQuarrie down at Nair said he would be interested in becoming qualified too. So we just
That's
had
great.
to get some information on how he needs to do that. And I don't know if you could, because Mr. Vincent was going to do the grade school kids, the seventh graders. So if we could find somebody at Eastern that would be interested in getting qualified, they would take care of all the schools.
Right.
And they do it in gym class anyhow.
Right.
Yeah, he may. I don't
And if
know.
you had it on, that would be really
Yeah.
good.
Because you have McQuarrie down there, Rusty up here, and then
It's a great thing, especially here. You know.
Mr. Vincent said that he didn't mind, if you call and ask him if he had time, he didn't mind coming in and helping, but he didn't want to do the whole, yeah, because it is time consuming. And he wasn't getting, he was just volunteering, and Mr. Vincent's 80 years old.
Yeah.
Do you have an update like calendar?
That's my next.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if it was finished. I was just,
That was my.
okay.
That's all right, I wrote it in mine. But I want to make sure we're done with that conversation. So, yeah, we can do some checking to see, and who else may be interested in that might help with that process. Conversation on the 24-25 school calendar. I will share with you the conversation I had with the calendar committee Tuesday evening. I provided them with 3 draft options because I again, was not sure truly the direction that we wanted to get, that the intent to go. So the first draft of the calendar for 24-25 was basically the 24-25, 23-24 calendar shifted to 24-25. It's this year's calendar, the teacher work days, the holidays, start date, very similar to what this year 23-24 was. The second, and I can give you those dates if you're interested, I've got them here laying in front of me. The second draft was to have the conversation to finish first semester with 88 days or 89 days prior to Christmas break. And again, the same number of teacher work days, the same holidays, the same everything that we have current. That would push the start date back to August 1st for students. For August 1st for teachers. August 7th would be students. August 1st would be the first teacher work day, 4 teacher work days, and then August 7th would be the first student day. That would get 88 days in before Christmas break and the semester before Christmas break. And then we'd go to the second semester and come back from Christmas break. Teacher work day would start, and the last day under that would be May 23rd, but the last makeup day would be May 29th if necessary. That's starting that early. The third option was, again, to try to come up with a way to get first semester ended before Christmas break. Start a little bit earlier, but a lot of the teacher work days and such were removed.
Can you quantify that? Like how many? Or general?
All of them.
All of them.
I'd say all of them except one in the spring, I think. Because if you look at the current calendar, the way we have it, we have 4 teacher work days right before school starts. We have a teacher work day in September. We had our parent-teacher conference day, teacher work days in October. We have a teacher work day on election day, which I don't think we have a choice. We have to have. We can't have kids in school on election day. And then the teacher work day in January as well. We left the teacher work day in January. That wasn't taken out because of the transition between the semester. We need that day to make sure the class changes and that sort of stuff made. And then there was one that was left in March as well.
So you got 3.
So we took the ones out in the first semester. Trying to get as many days in prior to Christmas break to finish the semester. It would get us, if we start the first teacher work day on August 12th, 13th, and 14th, 4 teacher work days. August 15th would be the first student day. That take out, again, the teacher work day in September, took out the 2 teacher work days / parent teacher conferences in October. That got us to 85 days prior to Christmas break. Which we need to be cognizant, because for high schools, you need 140 hours per credit.
May I ask a question? I just heard you say removing the workdays in October, that includes the parent-teacher conferences. Then when?
So the expectation would then be that for parent-teacher conferences, we would have to designate, say, October 7th through the 11th. During that week after school would be the time that school teachers and staff would schedule parent-teacher conferences after school.
Can you also specify what happens to Christmas breaks in each of those, not the first scenario, but the second two? Do we still have that same long break? Does it go into January? When does that begin?
Christmas break is the same in both scenarios. The last day before Christmas break would be December 20th. And we would not come back to school until January 6th would be a teacher workday. So you're still the 2 weeks there in December for Christmas break.
Is there flexibility to come back or to discuss a shorter Christmas break in order to sort of compromise between option 2 and 3 and still allow for the parent-teacher conferences to happen alongside teacher workdays?
We could, any of that's possible.
Anything's on the table.
Anything's on the table. I will tell, let me keep on going
Yes.
through this last option. Let me keep on going. There's a makeup day in January, there's a makeup day in February, there's a makeup day in March, just like all the options, just like what we do currently. There is, again, I told a teacher work day in March, maybe we can get that out, but we left a teacher work day in March.
Is that on are you doing those like a 9-week breaks or the quarter break?
Teacher work day, not, it's the week, it's about 5 days before the end of the 9 weeks.
Okay. That was the one thing that I did hear from teachers that they like, so at least some, the ones that said, hey, we do need, the ones that said we need work days said we really need them at the end of the quarter or 9 week.
The grading periods.
Yeah.
What, in this plan, this option 3, we did add 2 days around Easter break. So instead of Friday and Monday, as we have historically had, it would be Thursday, Friday, Monday, Tuesday.
Like a true spring break.
Amen.
Correct. And the last day of school under that 180 days would be June 2nd. And then 3 makeup days, and you exactly had to have 3 makeup days. I will share that the conversation.
Was that the end date? I'm sorry.
June 2nd. The conversation around this third option from a couple schools, I won't say all schools, but a couple representatives on the calendar committee. Could we consider going back to school on Veterans Day and Martin Luther King Day because they felt it was, they did a lot of good things prior to having those days off with the veterans breakfast and that sort of stuff and recognizing individuals.
That is something
And then-
I've seen that school.
So if you go back, if you go to school on Veterans Day, that would get you to 86 days. That would get you in first semester. If you go on Martin Luther King Day, that would, again, so you would be moving the end date forward a little bit as well. The calendar committee, because I'll tell you the same thing I told the calendar committee. This third option was developed because of not what I've been told directly, but what I've heard possibly that you all would like to see. And that's what I told them. I said, nobody in the board has told me, the board has not directed me to do this or said a date, you're going to start on this date or end this date. I said, but this is the conversations that I'm hearing. So that
Talking
was
about
shared.
about Martin Luther King and Veterans Day, I have been kind of keeping up with that, and a lot of the teachers will say that they could teach, they could have their instruction about Veterans Day, about Martin Luther King Day, could be stuff they could incorporate in the classroom. I saw that, like on national level, this has been discussed, that they would like to see that being part of the curriculum, or taught.
But I will, if I don't share it, that'd be remiss. I do know from several several of the representatives on the committee as well, they're concerned about taking the teacher work days out of the calendar.
Elementary eventually.
That's the biggest complaint I've had. Is the parent-teacher work days, especially the lower grades.
What about, and the other thing, I guess, well, a couple of things. One, somebody said something about early release to do some teacher conferences, that you could do that in lieu of, for a couple of days on that, rather than take, you've got a little more time to have that, or taking it to one day. And then the other thing that somebody was talking about was flex work days.
I told them as well. Thank you for reminding me. Before the last 2 years, prior to the last 2 years, we had what we had 5 unassigned days. We had what we called it in our scheduled contracted days, based on how many days they're teaching, how many teacher work days, et cetera. But we added several teacher work days in, which reduced those unassigned days to there were no unassigned days. They were either a teacher work day or they were there present. They were there in person. So I don't know, because I wasn't going to take all 3 of these options to figure out what the contract work days look like. I wanted to have an idea of where we're headed. That way we can figure out what the contracted work days. I would assume, I'm going to make the assumption that if option 3 is where it's leaning, there's going to probably be some unassigned days where the teachers would have, just those unassigned days. How many, I don't know.
Because somebody's talking about that some school systems or some places that somebody would come in maybe over Christmas, part of the Christmas break, to do. You hear different things from depending on the grade level. And again, it's a lot.
I mean, I'm not going to ever change my opinion on it. I mean, I'm doing this because I had kids who have been affected by not being able to take an SOL. And you can say whatever you want, shouldn't depend on an SOL. Well, unfortunately, things do depend on SOLs. Your kids have to graduate, and I didn't have one this year, but I heard numerous complaints that you're out for 2 weeks, you come back, you have 3 days to prepare to take an SOL. One of those days we were out with, stuff that happened at Macy. Then you had the bad weather. Kids who struggle, you set them up for failure. I mean, of kids who was hard on it and had like some IEP issues, they needed to take their SOLs before they got out. I mean, that's, like it or not, just the way I feel. I mean, that's what I'm going to support, I mean, everybody has their own opinion, but I mean, it was very difficult for a couple of my kids who had to come back. It's hard to get ready for an SOL in 3 days. And then you lose one of those days, and the next week you're out. So then you're like, that's hard on your teachers, hard on your kids, hard on your teachers. I mean, that's just one view.
What's our timeline for needing to make a decision on this?
Historically, we brought a new calendar to you probably February to March for you all to approve. Plus, as part of that, we'll need to discuss setting graduation dates for this year. So that they're not tied hand in hand, but normally we try to do about the same. February to March is what we try to get this, so that you're aware, so that the community is aware. And I need to share this with you also. I don't know, you may know, a 10-month teacher, what their pay period is. There's September through June and July and August are escrow. So they're paid September through August. If we bring students back August 15th or before, that has to shift August to July. So that first year they're going to get finish up the old one, start the new one. But if we ever decide to revert back to after August 15th, and that shifts back, there would be
They'd have a gap.
Gap. They're not losing money, they're just not getting.
Right.
But
We could leave it alone if that change were ever made.
one thing that
I want you to be aware.
one thing that I don't know that I do think is going to happen, if other school systems, if that's how that works, I wonder if sometimes that's not a deterrent for us getting teachers from other school systems, in that if they're getting paid through July and they come to work for us and don't get paid until September, there's a month, the same thing that you're talking about there. And because the way it looks, most of our surrounding school systems start students before the 15th. So, that's, I don't know that anybody's ever said that, but again, I don't think most of us, conceptually it doesn't, and it's not like, again, it's not like they're not getting paid for a full year. It's just the way we divide.
It's divided into 12.
I mean, because it used to, my mother used to always get it. She wanted her money. She wanted the last paycheck in May, so she got that money and could earn interest on it because it used to be you had the option of getting paid 1/10 over 10 months, and then you didn't have a paycheck over. And I think we changed. When did we change that?
I'd have to ask Barbara for sure. I'd say it's been 12 for as long as I don't remember when that was changed. I'd have to ask her. It used to be, you could 10 or 10, 12. 10 months or 10 to 12 months.
What I'm thinking is maybe we express some thoughts to Terry. If there's some disagreement on it, that maybe you look at it and come up with a recommendation. You take that back to the calendar committee, bring it back to us, the calendar committee. Once we get it to a point where we feel comfortable, then I think, we put it up with, the community as far as put it on the website, because we don't get, as I tell people, we did that last year. I think, was it last year? 1 year I think it was last year. We put it up on the website for a month, and I don't think we got any public.
The website's another point of discussion. Don't get me started.
Yeah, but basically have it publicly available, because that was one thing that I hear from. It's grumbling, but I think I would hear it must be nice to have all these 4-day weeks, and you hear that, and yes, it's people upset that we're not there to be their child care provider, but again, that's people that elect us, and they've got some concerns with that. In looking at this, I look back that in 2007, the calendar, they started September 1st and got out June 1st. Now, the makeup days were out in the year, and I don't know what time they actually got out. But if you look, we've gone from, if you take out the 2 weeks that we traditionally take, I think we've always gotten 10 business days or school days for Christmas break. We have gone from 38 and 40 weeks to where you're touching calendar weeks because you're going 4 days a week, to now we're 39 and 41. I think we're getting close to 40 and 42 as far as, because we've got kind of the disjointed calendar. That's just something that conceptually I see. And again, in looking for this wasn't just, Melissa expressing the concern. We can talk about these things, but Melissa expressing the concern in theirs. I've got a concern sometimes that our kids, like soccer camp at Tech. Again, it's this year we're still in school that last week. And again, you can pull your kids out, but my kids are going to school if this school's open. So,
and it's not just like necessarily. Theirs just happens to be the kids on the block schedule, and so it's going to affect. It's all about what is the best for kids. I don't care where you go to school. You know, I mean, if you can help you out to get your SOL passed, of course.
Can you clarify for me? I do recall, just as a parent, in the fall, we did have a few Fridays where there were work days or off days for various reasons. Were those for, what are you laughing at?
Just something.
Okay, there were several, and what my question is, were we doing like required professional development hours for our teachers on those days, or were those genuine work days for the teachers in their schools? Because I'm wondering if maybe there's a compromise to reducing some of those just on the front half of the year.
September 1st, I'm talking this year.
Okay, perfect.
23-24 school year. September 1st was, we didn't have school, nobody worked.
Right,
That was before Labor Day.
yes,
The 22nd, September 22nd was a teacher work day. So they probably had some professional development at school, they had meetings at school,
Yeah.
whatever might have been going on. The October 12th and 13th, and I'm just doing the Fridays.
yes, perfect.
The 13th, October 13th, that was parent-teacher conferences in the morning, teacher work day in the afternoon. October 27th is the end of the first 9 weeks. We were here. November 10th, that was Veterans Day. That was a Friday. November 24th is Thanksgiving break. And then the 22nd of December was a 2-hour early release for Christmas.
For Christmas.
So that's first semester.
Sure.
Now, second semester, just here last week, the 26th, January 26th, that was a teacher work. So teachers were either in professional development meetings or working in their room, one combination of those. Now, March is when you get back into the Fridays. March 1st is a teacher work day. March 15th is a makeup day. And but 29th is Easter break, so it starts Friday for Easter break.
Okay.
What I'm sorry, Lisa.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, what we use those for, we call them work days, I wish they were called professional development days. Because when the state said we're going, with the Virginia Literacy Initiative, myself, Paula Tibbs, a lot of times, and Sarah Woods, we trained 42 teachers on the letters to train them how to do the science of reading. So we use those. Then we did that first year. Then we were doing our math initiative, and we had people come in from different counties that were having a lot of success with math, talking about our math audits. Then we wanted to expand our STEM programs. So, and then we were benchmarking and progress monitoring kids. Well, that's Mastery Connect. So we bring up Mastery Connect. We fly them in and they talk to the teachers. We don't have enough subs because when I first came here, my initiative was the mentor teachers, and I drove the principals crazy, which I understand because I'm really a principal, but because I want to bring their new teachers here to train them. We didn't have enough subs, and so they were losing their mind over it, and they were like, "You got to stop that." So there's so many initiatives. We're getting ready to start the next round with the Virginia Literacy Initiative, going all the way to 8th grade. That's a whole different way of looking at teaching reading, and we're going to take it. Now we're going to expand to another school. And so, I understand in the calendar and things like that and what we need to do, but we don't have enough subs right now, but after COVID, to bring teachers in to train them.
Right.
And then the teachers lose their mind because they're like, "You're saying that's a work day and I don't get to work." That is true. Like, we have so many initiatives going on that we need to train them, and a lot of times they don't get into their room to work until like 2 or 2:30. And I get that. I was a teacher for 16 years too, so I understand that. But we've got to train these teachers to keep up with what the Department of Education is telling us to do. And after COVID, all of these kids who are so far behind, I don't know any other way to do it is to train them. And I see everybody's point of view on it. The teachers need time to get in their classroom. Well, you're telling me to do all these things, but you're not giving me enough time to do it. I get that part. But there's, it's just like, it's sort of like the calendar and everything else. I don't know what the right answer is. But that's what we've been doing with those things. And I think we've made a lot of progress, with our math initiative, our reading initiative, and our STEM. But that's, there's just a lot going on that we
Yeah.
gotta train our teachers.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I think that, to me, I think if you, Veterans Day and MLK Day, I think if you brought them, you put work days in their place somewhere when the kids go to school that day. Cause I do think there's, unfortunately, most of the kids aren't, I want to observe and honor our veterans, but I think that Veterans Day breakfast at Nares Elementary School or some of the other things we do is a lot more valuable for a lot of our kids rather than staying home and playing video games on that. And the same with Martin Luther King Day. I think they're going to learn a lot more about it than staying home and maybe watching a few NBA games that are on or whatever it is. So, that's something that personally I feel supportive of if it get the work days back. I just would like to know, and I'm not saying anything, but how often on these work days are folks taking, that as leave so that they're getting a long week.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that I'm not saying,
yeah.
and when I'm saying that, I'm not in any way begrudging anybody from taking their personal days. That's their time to do with what we want. But, I would like to know that.
That's always a possibility, particularly like if we're training reading or math teachers. But I will tell you, I'm really proud of the fact that Giles County has some divisions, and Dr. Argas will tell you, are just now starting with the science of reading. Giles County, with 42 teachers that are trained, and that was not a one-day training. That was a year-long training and a lot of work, and the teachers did it. And whenever we brought the teachers up here that were doing the letters training, and there were 20 of them, they showed up because they knew that they were going to be responsible for it. Mm-hmm. But I don't know where the other teachers were. I know that the trainings, the teachers are taking it. When we have trainings for teachers, I do know they're very serious about it. But do we have training for every teacher every workday? No. So I don't know they're taking a sick day.
I mean, I think that's a way. I think that's a compromise to get us to where we want to go there. The other thing that I hear, another thing I see, we were up there the day that we were touring the schools. It was a Wednesday or Thursday, and Giles was having the pep rally not because the game got moved, but because the game was on Friday, but the pep rally was that day. We're not being fair. If we're having these on Friday, we're not being fair to our high school athletes, the band, the cheerleaders. That Friday experience, and I'll tell you too, it was a burden on the coaches at Nares that were getting. And I'm sure that the Giles the same way. They were getting their varsity players up and getting them and arranging breakfast for them and getting them up and moving.
8 a.m. breakfast.
And that's. Those guys spend a lot of time already, and that's what Kelly Lowe said. If you're gonna take a day off, take it on Monday, and I tend to agree with that. I mean, like I said, I don't want to begrudge. God knows I love a 4-day work week. I don't begrudge people that, but I do think we've got to balance the training. We've got to balance that, but also with parents and work schedules. When they can schedule to be able to take it off. So I mean,
always here in June. Why are we still in school?
I'm trying to see things that we feel that do we have some consensus to look at that? Maybe going back. I mean, MLK Day and Veterans Day to put a couple work days in that.
Like I said, the biggest complaint I've had is about the work days been took away.
Taken away, did you say?
Well, I think also the thing is too, if there's a big consensus for that, we've got 2 extra days of spring break that we've added. I think I just don't like these kids getting out a week or 2 weeks after everybody. The start date is not as important. I do think it's if we can that we can do it without too much burden, start a little bit earlier and get this thing done, first semester done. But spring break sounds great, but some people may not like that. They might like the 2 days and have a work day sprung in. So.
Are you able to share with us the 3 drafts that you, like, can we get like just an email synopsis of that to reflect on as we think about?
Yeah, it would be a matter of, I will scan it unless you want to put all 3 of them in that format. Can you put all 3 in that format?
Whatever is the easiest, no extra work, whatever is the easiest.
It's either put them in a 1-page format where you see all the calendars.
Sure.
written down, or I have to scan you the whole 12 months, 3 different
Right.
options. Let's see if we can.
I don't want to add like extra work. I took down like the basics of the notes, but sometimes a visual to look at after the fact
But
is.
if you go to school on Veterans Day, that would get first semester 86 days.
And how many do they need?
Unless you.
But I'm saying you could add a workday
If you
back.
make a work day, you're still leaving at 85. That's,
Does it need to be 80?
we've got to be close to 140 hours.
Well, here's the deal. I think, we've got more room more flexibility second semester.
And I was going to also ask you that as well. Is it your desire to continue to have makeup days in January, in February, in March, or do you want them all at the end of the year?
If my preference is, if we're gonna take virtual days, I don't think we need to build in makeup days to the calendar, because the whole purpose of the makeup days was so that we could not use those at the end of the year. And again, that gets, to me, this whole creep of the calendar from 38 and 40 to,
Because again, if we take those 3 out, you're shifting the end date back into May. So you are.
and that gives you work
Again,
day.
we just need to keep in mind that in the event we were to, I don't know if we ever will, but get a big snow again, and power and that sort of stuff's a problem, those will have to be days. Just don't know how many, because by code, we're supposed to make up, we can use virtual days, we can't plan them, but we gotta make up the first 5, and then everything, some after that.
First 5 snow days.
Yeah, first 5 snow days. So I'm hearing makeup days can be removed as well. Okay.
We don't have them in there and need them. Can we go back? We can't go back. And,
No, they're gonna be at the end of the year.
Well,
They're in there right now.
Put-
I guess the other, I told the county committee, I guess the other option, and I don't know that's a good option, is you create, instead of you create a 185-day calendar, and if you don't use them, you start just taking days off, but that's, again, that's not a good way to do it.
why don't, yeah, I think you've got, the makeup days, and I think historically we've used them, we've had them around Easter before, that maybe if you took the Thursday and the Tuesday as potential makeup, that gets you 2. Now,
Around Easter?
yeah,
But we didn't include, I mean, I know the comments that have come up here before, if you put makeup days around a holiday like that, we don't know for sure whether we're gonna get them.
People can't plan vacations.
Plan
Trips.
this, and then we do get it, we don't get it. I know that's why we didn't put it around holidays, but we can if that's. We can-
well, we can't make everything happy, and that's, I mean, you know, it's gonna be, you know, for our staff, it's gonna be a choice between canceling plans or taking personal days to if they have those plans. And that may put us on a sub issue, but that kind of is what it is. And for students, I mean, it's gonna have to be, you know, I would hope, and I think our administration would, if somebody had a trip to Disney planned over Easter, which, God, I hope you wouldn't go over Easter, but.
I've done that. It's terrible.
Yeah, but if you did, that our, you know, I think our school system would be understanding in most instances on that. I mean, I you know, we would have maybe a direction from the superintendent that we'd maybe not have any critical testing, exams, or such things on those days. You know, those are things that can be dealt with. I think we get entrenched, you know, there's entrenchment on a lot of things, and I think some of these things can be worked out.
I did, and again, I'll share with you, the third option that we've been talking about, that's what Amanda's drafted, of extra draft, that's what she's gonna send to the calendar committee, so that's what they're gonna give feedback on.
Thank you. I mean, I know you've put in a lot of work, but I'm confident y'all can get it worked out.
But the other thing that somebody asked me that was a teacher is if we could do, understanding that it would not be binding on any future board, but if we could start looking at doing a 2-year calendar, because and try to at least have the understanding that if we set something out 2 years from now, that we're not going to change the start date and we're not going to change the end date, such that people could plan. I was told that, you know, some of these places, campsites or various things, you got to plan a year in advance and they don't want to put a deposit down, you know, all those things. I throw that out there as something that to consider.
If we have an idea of where we're headed, then yeah, we could, a 2-year calendar could be put together, that's. And I do know, and again, I don't know, past boards have said that if we were going to make a drastic change to the calendar, it would be a year's notice. And I don't know that we're talking a drastic change, but I do know that has been shared before.
What's the difference? What day did we
Go this year?
go this year, guys?
We started, August 14th was the first teacher work day. August 21st was the first day for students.
About a week.
So what you're looking at with this third option, basically you're starting at 2 days early. Students 2 days early. Still starting on the 12th, August 12th, 13th, 14th, teacher work day.
Because somebody falls.
And surely there are people who already have August trips and stuff like that. I mean, there are going to be some people who will be unhappy with whichever way this goes.
But I think it would be more of a problem if we were talking August 1st than this one, because.
Oh, I think.
This is very similar. This is not far off, because if we were to do a calendar just like what we did this year, the first teacher workday would still be August 12th.
Right.
12th, 13th.
Yes, there's no change from the teacher's schedule.
And the 19th. So it's not much, there's a little bit different.
Well, was anybody here leaning towards August 1st was a good idea?
No, I mean,
Okay.
what
I just wanted to clarify.
I had
We're
said-
at least on the same.
I'd said before, my thing was try to start by August 15th, just from the standpoint of about everybody else does that, and it allows us to get out. Because you're starting to see with camps and all that other stuff that you know, when everybody else is getting out before the end of May.
Did that so the calendar committee could see truly
What the impact would
that
be.
means, what it does.
I think we ought to just go year round, be done with it.
There you go.
I'm not going to voice my opinion on that in a public setting.
Can you imagine having to go in so many months and then having your kid at home for a month or however many weeks?
Oh, my other question is, how many 4-hour early releases does that have on it?
0.
The only 4-hour early release that I would know that it's on there is probably the last day of school.
Last day of school.
I'm okay with that, but
I don't know that I put it on there, but that's normally historically where we put it the last day of school.
Okay.
Otherwise, Christmas break, I don't even know if I included it on Christmas break, but on Christmas break, normally it was 2-hour release that Friday. Historically, the Friday or the Thursday before Easter break has been 2 hours. I don't know that I put it on there since we're Thursday,
Getting
Friday,
extra days.
Monday, Tuesday. I don't think I included it there.
I think that was, I don't know, it just always seemed like it's an awful lot of waste of money to get for, I mean, the last day I don't have a problem with, but
We've been asked that question before.
A lot of people just don't send them, they're not gonna work on school for a few hours.
Yeah, but we still got to run our buses.
I know,
So when does the calendar committee meet again to,
I told them that, one, I wanted to have a conversation with you all to see what sort of guidance I got from you all. Two, I wanted them to have some time to send, to get the draft that we shared with them. I anticipate what I told them, I think we'll probably get together that, not next Tuesday, but the
13th.
Tuesday afterwards, I think it's the 13th.
okay.
So I told them we would not do it on Valentine's Day.
Let's do it on Valentine's Day. That promotes love and understanding.
Yes.
So what I'm hearing is we'll tweak the draft that, we'll still send the draft that they have, but we'll also tweak what we have here as well. Look at going to school on Veterans Day, Martin Luther King, makeup days out of January, February, March, and keep teacher work day, or keep days off from being on Fridays. Except for holidays.
Yeah.
Oh, I just want to hear this part one more time. So we're still talking about keeping parent-teacher work days, parent-teacher conference days in the schedule as we have them now.
They're not in there now, no.
How many days?
They're not in there now as a day, a designated day. They would have to be done during the week, and they would have to be scheduled after school. Or we would have to put a early release in to do them in the afternoon, but then you're just talking an afternoon, 2 hours, 3 hours. Is that enough time that you're gonna be able to accomplish anything?
Can we get data on, or how many hours are elementary school teachers dedicating to teacher work days, to parent-teacher conferences right now? Because I know it's very different for the high schools versus who shows up to the elementary schools. But I will voice concern about removing those entirely from the day and requiring those to be in the afternoons across multiple days, which pulls our teachers pulling a whole week or 4 days, maybe, depending on how many hours we're talking about they dedicate right now, into their evenings away from their family commitments to events and all those things that are already scheduled. And then for the parents who do show up to those, who choose to go during the day hours, because that's better for their schedules also.
Maybe that's an option to put a 4-hour release.
Yes, something. I don't think that should be pulled out entirely.
4-hour early release, and Lisa, to address your concern, maybe we put a work day in, or it could be a parent-teacher conference, knowing that we're going to try to put the bulk of our work days if we do it second semester. You guys discuss and weigh in of what makes sense on that. And
I don't want to see that burden placed on the teachers to have multiple evenings of having parents coming in across several days.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think elementary level it is
Yes.
different.
right, it's definitely different elementary and high school.
And if they do come in the evenings, is there gonna be an administrator there, or is the teacher just gonna be there by herself?
We'd have to that's a conversation we'd have to have. I would assume that we would not ask our teachers to be there by themselves.
You talking about if we didn't put it, and it was all after school?
Yeah, if you made them do it after school.
I think what our direction as a board would be, if I'm stating what I think the consensus of the members here would be, either a 4-hour early release or a work or an actual one day rather than maybe the 2 day. That could be a work day.
It's usually the second day's half a day, up to lunchtime, correct?
Yeah, what we did this year, the first day, I think Thursday
afternoon.
morning was teacher work day, evening 2 to 6
Right.
was parent-teacher
And
conference.
then the next
Friday was
To accommodate
parent-teacher
everyone's
conference.
schedule.
Right.
In the
And
morning and teacher work day in the afternoon.
and would it?
And we don't have to do it on a Friday. We can keep it off Friday.
Well,
Monday or two. We can do it any day during the week.
And could you do it? To me, you'd also hit that issue too, give them at least a day without students. They may have some parent-teacher conferences, but at least give them a day if you did it right at the 9-week break. That trying to use as few days to meet as many concerns as possible. by doing this. Does anybody have a problem with that? Trying to put it at the 9 week? It seems like it never falls within 9 weeks, and it seems like that. I don't know. That's the one thing I keep hearing is if we get them, we'd like to have them there.
Well, I think the parent-teacher conferences were more like midway, so they had time to
remediate. To intervene.
The 9 weeks, like, my kid's failing, we got a couple of weeks left. I think that was the premise behind it.
Well,
But I mean, yeah,
I
but here's the thing, that's what the answer to it could be too, is that before, we did not have the student assistance team developed. Now the student assistance team, when a student is failing or behind, they can utilize that to bring a parent in to let them know ahead of time that their child is not being successful instead of just the parent-teacher conference day. So, we do have that to fall back on. Through a SAT team meeting.
I think what we see is.
Oh, yeah, somebody that's very good thing.
Yeah, I think what we're seeing is there's a lot of pull for days, and we've said, hey, we'll just put those days, whereas maybe we just need to be judicious with when it's not a normal school day.
Sounds good to me.
I think I've got an understanding.
Sounds good. Well, that was fun.
Clear as mud, ain't it?
I'm glad somebody understands something, because I don't know that I ever do.
Please give me
Oh, the internet. Mike, you want to?
Currently, we have accepted bids for internet service and need to get those approved.
But you can't approve it.
I can sign it and we can approve it at the next meeting. I just wanted to make sure because it's about $120,000 expenditure, but it's only going to be about $6,000 increase over what we got now.
This is our next round with, making sure we have the bandwidth that we necessary moving forward.
That runs everything.
It runs everything. Cameras and testing and cameras and everything.
It's, so Kevin White, it's a 36-month contract. There's 10 gigabyte per second internet access for $4,900. Let's see, $4,900 a month. Currently, the monthly cost is $10,650, and there'll be a $450 increase per month to $11,100.
Switching providers.
Well, increasing the
Okay.
the speed.
You're going from 1 gigabit to 10,
Okay.
which should,
Are we finding deficiencies right now, like in specific areas?
I think we're good right now. We're good, but we want to make.
We're anticipating. Sure.
Because we got to update equipment.
Like the security cameras.
Yes.
They're
All of the other
some of the higher resolution.
security cameras burn it up.
Is that the consensus? That's good. I just wanted, that was.
Yeah, I have no issues with that.
It's Chantel and Pentel will be part of it as well.
I sent the approval, so you're good.
Just information so you know, anticipate General Assembly session, I think, if I read the calendar right, February 20th, somewhere in that neighborhood would be the time to get House and Senate version of the budget. So we ought to hear, I would think, over the next, really start hearing now what those two versions going to sound like, look like. I haven't yet, but I anticipate that we should start hearing that. Some of that information. And so you know, we received an email from DCGS last week, I think it was, regarding SRO grants and another one for equipment PD grant. So I've shared the SRO grant with sheriffs, with Officer Johnson, who's over the SROs, and we'll have a conversation next week with two board supervisor members just to say we're looking into this, because there's one site that would qualify, because it would be a new position, that would be the tech center.
Yes. I actually had a student approach me last night at a basketball game about an SRO at the tech center.
Yeah.
Wanting one.
Kevin-
Yes.
Kevin's been asking it for
You guys, at least
2 or 3 years.
Yeah, because I was shocked, I even tried to prod a little bit, like, well, are you concerned? What are your worries? Like, why do you feel like that would be something that you need? And he had a valid argument and spoke from the heart. So I'm glad that's a conversation that we're having.
that came out, like I think last Thursday, shows there, it's got to be grants turned in February 29th, so we've got.
Nice.
I think that's all that I had on my.
Anybody else have anything they'd like to address before we consider a motion to adjourn? All right.
Make a motion to adjourn.
I was waiting on to see if you was gonna do it. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous.